Hello everyone, it's Proma and welcome back to the channel. Excuse me if I sound a bit under the weather. I currently am working over a cold, which for me being a man is the equivalency of the bubonic plague. Anyways, today's topic is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. What a mouthful. The sequel to the 2004's cult classic Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was announced in 2019 and released October 21st of 2025. The game had an unusual development cycle, starting with Hardsuit and ending with a Chinese room. And no, that's not some elaborate joke waiting on a punchline to take place. The game dropped with an overall lukewarm reception, sitting around a 64 on Metacritic with a 4.3 user review score and over 4,000 Steam reviews to date, leaving it with an average mixed rating. I am someone who has not played the first game, but it does seem to be more of a sequel in name and not in spirit, which for many is a bit of a turnoff. The first one did drop in 2004, however, which is before I was even manually conscious of myself, let alone the world around me. I do think it's a fun game. The story is interesting and it does a good job at pulling you in right from the start. Without giving away spoilers, you play as Fire, an elder vampire that's 400 years old. You wake up in the year 2024 after being in essentially a vampire coma for 100 years. All you know is that you have this sort of branding that limits your vampiric powers, and you have the voice of this 20s noir detective named Fabian stuck in your head. I really love the way the game portrays the two characters conversing with one another. It's this very cool red light room aesthetic that I really haven't seen utilized before, but the way the game is structured, it fits it perfectly.
There is something in this which disturbs me. The ghoul, Piotr. What was he to her?
There's two ways to read this riddle.
This is also one of those games where playing on the easier difficulties does play more into the character's power fantasy. There is one weird contradicting thing in the story, however, and this takes place within the first hour. But there's this character named Benny that you need to take down because he's killing Anarchs and Thin Bloods. But to make your way to him, you also need to kill a metric shit ton of Anarchs and Thin Bloods. Just a bit of a contradiction, but I didn't do the writing. You play through a solid part of the game as Fire. That character is where you'll experience all of the action the game has to offer. Fabian, on the other hand, really flushes out what the Chinese room is best known for: walking sims. His sections are pretty well done, but mostly boil down to go here and talk to X person, then go back and talk to Y person, and that's about it. There is another really cool dreamscape section that's very cryptic, and I have been enjoying progressing through that in the story. As for the combat, it's alright. Snappy and fast paced without being overly clunky, which was my biggest concern with seeing that the game would be a first person melee brawler. I do wish there was some form of lockdown, since this is a personal skill issue complaint, but I do sometimes get lost in the sauce when I'm throwing hands. There is also an array of skills you can choose from throughout the game, and they are diverse enough from one another despite being part of a relatively streamlined system. I was a bit disappointed that there are no skill lockouts, which basically reduces the importance of your selected clan to just a set passive and a few dialogue options sprinkled throughout the story. The voice acting for most characters is fairly solid, but there are some odd ones like Tolly, who gave me literal whiplash seeing the character and hearing the accompanying voice.
Where will I find this Willem?
Last I heard, he was in the parking garage. It's where he goes when he's sulking. Advance warning, it's kind of rank. But I guess it's perfect for a Nosferatu who's ashamed to let his freak flag fly.
My thanks.
Some characters do sound like their recording may have been done outside of an actual studio, where the quality just differs widely from the more like mainline characters. Character customization is also super limited. Your options are basically 4 outfits per clan that are tied to the base skill that you've unlocked through that skill tree that was mentioned before. And there isn't much you can do to your character outside of different hairstyles, colors, and piercings, and some type of like makeup or scarring effect. But the hairstyles in total are like 5 unique ones with I think 8 different colorways. But all in all, the game does look beautiful, and Seattle around Christmas is graphically stunning and very immersive and atmospheric. But I do wish that there was more you could do in terms of exploration in the game. From my understanding, compared to the original Bloodlines, there's a lot less incentive to actually go out into the world, and through my playthrough, I did feel that. But you do have a lovely power fantasy when you can eventually get to the roofs and just, use your full vampiric sprint and glide around and not have to worry about the normal pedestrians catching you. The Masquerade system, however, does feel very disappointing, with you essentially dying if you get the equivalency of the GTA 5-star, and there isn't much incentive to actually preserve the Masquerade, since you can typically get away with 2 to 3 levels of it, with the end of the 3rd level being the instant death, and there's no prolonged effects of frequently escalating where the Masquerade meter hits. So it seems like a very unique system for the game that they, in my opinion, could have done more to flush out. But the biggest complaint I've seen with the game is that it just doesn't come close with the original in terms of being an RPG. And to me, it really played more like a narrative action adventure with incredibly minimal RPG elements. There isn't much incentive to explore the open zone of Seattle, but the missions themselves do feel well executed, and they do a great job to progress the story forward. I do think the people that are really knocking the game for not being a true RPG like its predecessor are comparing an apple to an orange and then asking the apple why it isn't an orange. It's a bit of an unfair comparison. Honestly, it's a miracle this game managed to be released at all given the development cycle it went through. I did overall have a fun time playing the game, and the story had me invested, but I really can't recommend it at its full $60 price tag. I think for me personally, it's a solid 6.5 out of 10. It is a good game, and I did have fun playing it, but I would definitely recommend waiting to pick it up till it's on sale for at least half off. I think you can get it for $30, maybe around the holiday season or even Black Friday coming up. You would have a wonderful couple of hours spent with this game. Until next time, Proma out.